Don't believe me, just watch.
Imagine Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez this morning. We're loving our new song here.
Absolutely.
Could we get that on the PA system at the Roundhouse?
I'll make a motion that be the state song at least during the session.
That'd be awesome.
Fantastic, yeah, you
Don't
bet.
believe me, just watch. It'd be awesome to hear that. I'd love to see Don Tripp do that.
Well,
Didn't you Speaker of the House?
I think so. I think you're going to see, and you're starting to see things in the House of Representatives where they're saying, don't believe me, just watch. Things are moving along in the House of Representatives because we have new leadership there.
Right.
Dan.
Well,
yeah.
and I think a lot of people don't realize this is the first time in 60 years that the House has changed hands. It was under Democratic control since, what was it, 1953, if I remember
Since
right.
Eisenhower was president, right.
And this is the first time after last year's Republican takeover of the national offices that also it happened in statewide offices. And what does that do? I know you preside over the Senate, which is still democratically controlled.
Sure.
But what does that do in terms of the House?
I think it could be wrapped up as this. Some people say that, what's the definition of insanity is that you keep doing the same thing over and over with the failed results. And here in Santa Fe, we're looking at bills that have been trying to be pushed through the legislature. So whether it be, pro-business bills like right to work, making our tax code more competitive, maybe tort reform. Think about that, the ability for us to have less, lawsuits that would slow down business. And Dan, that's really what we're trying to do in Santa Fe. So you're seeing the House of Representatives very quickly passing out pro-business legislation. And they're having, in some cases, Democrats who are supporting it. We had a Democrat who supported the right to work bill that I testified upon. And it was bipartisan.
You don't often get a chance to go down and testify, do you?
No, but I thought it was very important because I was one of the original right to work bill sponsors back when I was a House member.
You carried it a decade ago.
I did, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so people may be saying, well, why is this bill so important? Well, first, it's not an anti-union bill. It gives people the free choice to make a decision whether they want to join a union or pay union dues. But what it means to the people of New Mexico is that it makes New Mexico a much more competitive state. If we want to attract good, high-paying jobs, manufacturing jobs, let's not give any business, whether it be large or small, any excuses not to come to our state. And my personal take is, and I think a lot of people in the Roundhouse, is that the fact that we're not a right-to-work state is one of those things that it's an obstacle from allowing us to attract those jobs.
A lot of people do feel, though, that it is a bill that does decimate unions. It does remove their bargaining power. It does hurt them, and it does hurt overall the salaries, the wages, and a lot of worker protections they've fought for years. And what do you say to people?
Well, no, I would say there's some take on it. My take on it is that it really strengthens unions because it makes them more accountable to their members. And so we're looking at at the end of the day, it's jobs and the economy. So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, an independent in New Mexico. If you're concerned about expanding our job base, about growing our economy, and making New Mexico, Dan, a very competitive place that will allow us to really move forward, we're going to have to do things different because for too long, 102 years, we really have been controlled by one party in the legislature. And I think New Mexicans are saying, look, maybe we ought to give Republicans an opportunity to govern in this state. And if so, I think you're going to start to see the economy grow. You're going to start to see New Mexico to be join the rest of its sister states around where we can attract jobs, grow the economy, expand our tax base. And that's really what we're looking to do.
I've been following this at Albuquerque Business First as a reporter, and it's been great fun to follow the right to work debate. And one of the things I think that's missing from it is the Bipartisan Jobs Council made a ton of really awesome recommendations, bringing money to LEDA funds, and job training. They didn't make a recommendation about right to work, and they didn't see that as an issue that would grow jobs.
Listen, I think what we need to do is to give ourselves every opportunity. I like to use the example of, whether it be JTIP, LEDA. The governor's pushing the expansion of the road fund so we can invest in roads and highways.
$180 million
Absolutely.
over the next 3 years.
Sure.
And that's an interesting one, though, because that's a ton of money. You look at $180 million plus $50 million plus another $13 million in JTIP funding. That's a lot of money, and we're staring down a year right now where there is not a lot of new money because of oil dropping. Look, how do we pay for that?
Well, my take is simply this. We have to do that because the status quo is simply not acceptable. So giving New Mexico the opportunity to have many arrows in its quiver in order for us to grow our economy.
But how do we pay for that? I was thinking about this. There's really three ways we can pay for these large things like this. You either raise taxes, because we don't have any money right now mainly because of oil prices. So you got to raise taxes, you got to dip into the permanent fund, or you got to borrow. I mean, if there's one I'm missing.
Really, you're not. But the idea is about the prioritization of state funds, and that's one of the things that the governor and I, for the last 4 years, we walked into office with the largest structural deficit in our state's history. We were able to balance the budget by cutting back state spending, putting money where it really counted, putting rounds on the target. We didn't do that without raising any taxes, and we started to see budget surpluses. With those surpluses, Dan, what we did is we were able to sock away money. Our reserves by law is at 5% of reserves.
Right.
Well, some
We're
cases
more than that right now.
11%. That's good.
Is there enough money in that to pay for the roads and to pay for the LEDA
the governor's
funds
budget is such that will provide those funds necessary. One of the upsides to the fact that the price of oil has dropped and gasoline prices, it's really been a tax cut for every New Mexican, right? And we're starting to see gross receipts tax really start to increase as well. So even though the revenue projections aren't solid right here, and we don't know exactly what they're going to be, we're working towards that to be able to put money and invest it where it's needed the most.
The new consensus estimates are out this week, are they not?
Yes.
Supposedly. What are you thinking it's going to be? Like 230 million was the last, I think it was 230 was the last estimate we saw. You think it's going to be even lower now?
Well, it could be. We're being affected by things that are happening across the world.
Right.
Right.
We
and
can't
we don't
control
know
what happens
exactly.
with the oil
What we
price
can
all over.
control is how we spend our money, how we budget, where we prioritize our spending, and we'll continue to do that, working with the legislature. And by the way, as I preside over the Senate, that's a big deal because it's controlled by Democrats. And look, I think a lot of people are saying we've got to come together, put aside partisan issues, and do what's right for the state.
Yeah. I want to talk to you too. I wrote last week, and you and I talked about Innovate ABQ.
Yes.
You are one of the new board members
I
on
am.
that. And for those that don't know, Innovate ABQ is a giant business center downtown. It's supported by the city, the county, UNM, the state,
That's right.
the feds. Everybody's coming together on this innovation district. And they launched the board of directors for that last year. And it was, we'll just say, not diverse enough for a lot of the stakeholders that were really involved. They brought you in, they brought in several other pretty great business folks around.
Right.
You're the one entrepreneur on the board. And I mean, what do you bring to that as an entrepreneur into the Innovate ABQ board?
I bring over 30 years of owning several businesses, and just a local kid who had a dream and a vision to climb the ladder of success one rung at a time. And so I think that's what we're seeing across New Mexico are very aggressive, entrepreneurial people who are passionate about wanting to stay in New Mexico, Dan. Far too often we have a lot of talented people who have to leave New Mexico because they can't either find a good job or they don't have the means in order to start their own business. And this particular project is really going to create a culture, an environment somewhat similar to other communities. I think of Austin, Texas.
Austin,
Florida, Boulder up in Colorado. They're centered around great universities, obviously UNM being the top research university in our state, bringing together all these different entities that we create, and we build an environment, a culture where people can come and exchange ideas, and we bring others. I think this is going to be a big part of our state's economy going forward.
Well, you mentioned people leaving, and I think this is the interesting statistic is that over the last year we saw 2,700 people leave the state, and that's an interesting thing because really over the last 100 years, New Mexico's been an in-migration state.
Right.
I mean, what can we do from a policy standpoint beyond some of these things that encourages people to stay? Because I talked to contractors yesterday who say it's a zero-sum game. They build a new apartment complex, they fill it. They're not filling it with new people. They're stealing tenants from others.
Well, job one is to reverse that trend, and we do it by simply building, a strong, stable economy that's growing, that allows the construction industry to continue to do what they do best, and that is, building infrastructure. We saw down in different parts of the state. I look at down in Santa Teresa, which is along the border area.
How many times have you been down there?
Oh, multiple times. It's really, I think
you take your personal car too, don't you?
I do. I've traveled over 200,000 miles since I've been lieutenant governor, traveling all 33 counties. And that's important. But, it's about making New Mexico a good place for people to grow jobs. And we're seeing that in places. We're seeing, the governor has announced almost on a weekly, monthly basis of the ability for us to attract businesses here. It's not enough. We got to continue to do more. But we have to give ourselves the tools in order to be able to do that. And again, I believe it's right to work. It's funding JTIP, making it permanent. The LEDA fund, making sure that particular program is well funded.
Is there $50 million for LEDA? We've only got a couple of minutes here left.
Right.
Is there $50 million in the
Well,
budget
that's
for
the
that?
goal. That's the goal. And we're going to fight to make sure, and we have friends in the legislature who believe that's a priority as well.
Yeah, and that's one that really could help us. We lost, some said the big Apple plant because we didn't have enough in that fund. And the one that moved
The
to
Tesla.
Arizona, and Tesla as well.
Yeah.
The Apple Glass factory in
Right.
Arizona was the other big one. So we're going to be back in a couple of seconds with Paul Gessing, who's an economist with the Rio Grande Foundation. We're going to talk about some of this stuff and how they affect the economy. And more with Lieutenant, you're sticking around for
Absolutely.
this, right? Great, thank
Good.
you. More in the Morning Brew with friends.